Well, good morning, CrossWinds, and welcome back to the CrossWinds Church More Than Sunday podcast. This is episode 46 of this thing. We've done 45 others, and there's a good chance that a number of you are listening to this for the first time, so welcome to this. I say that because the topic we're going to talk about today, I sent out an email to link you to this so you could hear a little bit more about our thoughts regarding, I'm putting this in air quotes, reopening church. When I say we are going to talk about this, I don't even know if that's the right way to phrase that. Typically, these podcasts have been me talking with some other people. In fact, this is the first one I'm doing alone. It's not we. This is just going to be me today, kind of addressing some questions we've been getting. I'll say that in the last few days, I've gotten texts and emails and phone calls and indirect messages through my family, people asking them, are we going to be, again, air quote, reopening church in light of some of the news and events happening regarding people suggesting that churches ought to get back in and going again in their normal routines. Here's the thing. We know that there are some churches around California, definitely, that are talking about holding services by May 31st. Whether the state that they're in, California in our case, or their counties have said that it's okay or not. I know that there's a movement for churches to reopen by May 31st. We're getting asked, and I don't want to make this sound like it's been a ton of people, but there are a few people who are asking whether or not we're going to do the same. And the answer is no, we are not. And I want to give you a few reasons. And I'd hope that my heart and my love for those churches, I want that to come out in this. But for our people of CrossWinds shows and what I kind of want to share with you right now. First of all, we love the people of this church of CrossWinds. I mean, genuinely, we would never want to do anything that would even come close to putting people at risk. I understand that the facts are, it seems like California has flattened the curve, and I get that. But the other fact is, our church is a large church with a significant amount of people that come every single Sunday. And just statistically, when we meet in person, there is a real good chance that you would either be worshiping alongside somebody who's infected with COVID-19, or that you might be asymptomatic is the word I'm trying to say, and somebody immunocompromised in your presence could be put at risk. We have so many people when we gather together on Sundays. It's impossible for us to have a room the size we've got with the people we've got in it, as many as we've got in that moment, for there to not be one of those two scenarios going around. And let me just say that again. This virus could be asymptomatic. You might not have a temperature. You might not have a cough. Nothing wrong or going on in you that would show you're contagious. And yes, you might be willing to risk you coming to church, but we love the elderly in our church, and we love the kids in our church, and we love the immunocompromised that we could be putting at risk by trying to have these large gatherings in person. So it's one reason. A second reason we're not opening, and again, I'm putting the word opening in air quotes, if you could see my fingers. Second reason, we love our neighbors. Now think about that. That has been a theme all year. Since last August, when we did a Vision Sunday, talking about what it looks like for us to love the neighbors around us. And hey, I hope that everyone in our community, even outside CrossWinds, of course, is doing their part to avoid the spread. But we should do ours, because even if you're not worried about you should love your neighbor enough to isolate out of concern for them. You all live next door to people who might not know Jesus, and your love and your care for them in this moment could serve a greater purpose than what you think is at stake here. We have a mandate. The greatest command is to be loving God and then loving our neighbors. And so that's another reason we feel like we've got to model that for our community as well. Third reason, look, There are going to be ways to gather in person, and from the sound of it, real soon we're going to be able to do that. In fact, we have been having conversations for months now. I mean, literally since this started, we've been talking about what, again, air quotes, reopening looks like. And you know us, we are a team full of experimenters here at CrossWinds. Like we we have some very creative ideas about how we can do that safely, meet together in person safely, and in some not so large group settings, but still larger than just a small group. Some ways we can meet outside. We've had a lot of those ideas. But when we meet in person again next, it does not have to be in the riskiest possible way that some might be suggesting out there, a massive worship service. We just know better than that. We're working on it. I'll get back to that in just a second. But it doesn't have to look the way that people seem to think reopening ought to look like. Okay, fourth reason. Do you know what they found spreads the virus? Droplets, especially when people are talking loud or singing together. There was a Mother's Day service literally this is a few weeks ago in Mendocino County. Mendocino County, not a hard hit area, right? 3 people were in the room while they recorded the Mother's Day service at a church. It was like 2 singers and the person who was filming, and they were all socially distant. Like you could watch the video and see that. And now all 3 of those people are infected, and one of them is in the hospital. So what do we do when we come together at our services? I'd argue one of the things right now that we are missing most is our singing together as a church. It's actually the most dangerous thing we can do when we come together. Here, let me throw this out. 2 churches that I've read about recently have resumed in-person services. One of those in Texas, another one in Georgia. And within 2 weeks of resuming, they had to stop having in-person services because outbreaks happened in their churches as a result of having those services. So here's where I'm going with this. The socially distant service that we would have to do, it is going to be way different than what you're used to. If we were to start to try to have in-person services again this Sunday, as some have suggested, it's going to look way different than what you're used to. It's everybody wearing masks. It is plexiglass between people in seats. It's people in our auditorium sitting very far from each other. It's not going to allow you to sit with your friends and shake hands and hang out together in the lobby and courtyard around tables. There's not going to be a community coffee kiosk. In fact, we won't be able to do children's ministry because you know who doesn't do social distancing well? Kids. They're terrible at it. My point is, while we acknowledge, can I acknowledge meeting online might not be as engaging as being in person? Of course not. But it is way better than what a socially distant service with no singing, no speaking to the people around you. It's way better than what we would have to do were we to start trying to meet in person this Sunday. All right. Here's my final reason that you won't see us reopening this Sunday. You ready? The church never closed. This is my biggest thing. And I'm going to say this until we're in person again. The church never closed. I resent that we are using language like reopening when it comes to church, because our church has been open every single day of this shelter in place. And in some respects, more active than ever. I mean, think about this. We've had 2 blood drives. Our garden team has continued to grow produce to be distributed to those who are like food insecure throughout the East Bay. You have stocked the East Bay Agency for Children with rice and beans. And a few months before that, we loaded them up with diapers. This past week, a lot of you don't know this yet, we were a distribution center at CrossWinds for masks. Some 65,000 masks were brought to our location where we distributed them to churches around Alameda County, who then in return took them to nursing homes. I think we hit almost every nursing home in Alameda County. 65,000 masks. We've created and equipped our church with like a self-guided Good Friday retreat that people came out and did, some on the property, some in other places at their homes, Small groups are still meeting over Zoom and Google Meet. Our team of pastors, our leaders are praying with you on the phone and responding to your emailed prayer requests. Our care team has been working hard to show love to our community as the needs come up one by one. Every single Sunday, we've been putting on services with the same creative energy, the same volunteer teams leading us. Sometimes those people are even recording parts of those services from their own home. And I'll just say it again, counting this one, we've recorded 46 of these More Than Sunday podcasts, talking with volunteers and pastors and church partners. That's 46 more than we've ever done before. Just today, like this morning, I got an email from somebody that I'm starting to correspond with, a friend, about turning our auditorium into a mask making factory for the next few weeks. How dare anybody say that church needs to be reopened? You can't close the church. The church has always been God's people doing just what they're doing. You don't need to hold a worship service in person to be open. We are open. So CrossWinds is open. We never closed, but that doesn't mean we have to put people at risk to continue to be the church. I don't want to take away from how important it is to meet in person. It is. It is. Next week, we are going to begin talking with you about some creative ways that we can get back to being in person in safe, responsible ways. And they do involve teaching that'll happen in person, and they involve worship that'll happen in person, and they involve coming back to the campus and getting into the rhythm of Sundays again. We've kind of got an incremental plan to start to create increasingly larger gatherings as it's safe. What I mean by that is we got a plan for things we're going to do in groups of 25 when we're allowed to do 25 or less, and got another one that we can do when it's 50, and another we can do for when it's 100. Believe me, I cannot wait to share those things with you. That's been my favorite part of the last few weeks, is outlining that and getting creative and coming up with safe ways to do that. We just got some final details to work out, but keep an eye out for those next week. For now, here's what you need to know. We miss you. We love you. And we love our neighbors. And nobody wants to worship together in person more than the leadership of this church. We cannot wait to gather again and hold a big service where things are back to the way they used to be. It will be a wonderful, wonderful day. But part of what we do as Jesus followers is we love each other by laying down our lives for each other, right? That means our wants and our needs and our preferences and even an itch that we desperately want scratched. And more than I want to get back to being physically present all together again, I want you to know you can trust your leadership at CrossWinds to not put you at unnecessary risk, or your kids at risk, or to ask you to volunteer in a risky way. When this thing is all over, more than anything, I want you to be able to trust that we love you and our community more than we love business as usual.